With your time here at SLU, what change have you noticed with this year's incoming freshman class compared to other previous? What we also were thinking is because we understand that you did come from another school.
Right.
So I guess even there, how over the years, I guess, what are some changes you would see?
Okay.
And then I guess how does that compare to, like, from what you've noticed there at your other school to, like, the freshman class here at SLU?
I could definitely answer that question. So for the last 2 years, I was at Loyola University, Chicago. The kind of biggest differences between, I would say, students in general at Loyola, so like last year, I'll think about like last year's freshman at Loyola compared to this year's freshman here, is, and I love Loyola, I'll preface that, love it, love the people there. But what I really love about, I think, the freshman class here is their school spirit. I think there's a lot of pride in what it means to be here at SLU, what it means to be a Billiken. I think there's a whole lot of pride that wasn't as prevalent at Loyola, which is just an interesting piece. And I think there's also a piece of kind of student voice and student activism that I hear much more often here. Now, it could be a lot better, and I think they could be kind of encouraged. Their voices could be heard a lot more on this campus, but I feel like they're more willing to use their voices here than they were at Loyola. I'd have conversations with students, and it would just be like, this is the way things are, which was like difficult for me. Whereas I'm like, hey, do you know that you have power? Do you know that you have agency?
You can change it.
Right. I see a lot of that. I see more of that here at SLU, which makes me happy. So
I don't know if you're familiar with Occupy SLU and everything that has happened.
Oh, yeah.
So looking back at that, because even in our class we touched on it, we learned about it, saw a few videos. Since that all occurred, do you believe it brought any significant changes to the dynamics here at SLU?
Yeah. I think maybe not like significant changes. I think more awareness is probably the biggest thing that I think it illuminated, it shed the light on some of the things that probably some of the bias that exists with not just students but maybe faculty and staff that sense of discomfort, and that's on both ends. You know, faculty that felt uncomfortable, faculty and staff that felt uncomfortable because of the incidents and because they may have not felt supported. Students who felt the same way. I think it started a conversation that probably should have been happening already.
Definitely.
So I think that's probably the biggest change. And my hope, like coming here, not being here when it happened, but knowing all about it and seeing what happened at Loyola, I'm hoping that the conversation continues. Because there are things happening every day. There are students here every day that feel like they're marginalized, feel like they don't belong, feel like their voice is not heard. What are we doing to make sure that they don't feel that way, or we can make things better? So I'm hoping that the conversation continues.
Yeah, definitely. That's always good. And I know you said you came from Loyola, another Jesuit institution, Chicago home.
Yeah.
So the Jesuit mission that is particular to SLU, does it play a role in the way that you go about your job here as residence hall coordinator?
Being aligned to my work, I think it definitely is, and it's less about the words. So I think people focus oftentimes on like the mission and the oath and these words. I think about the actions. So how am I living out the words? It's something that I'm not perfect in, but it's something that I think about oftentimes and I'm trying to get better at. But yeah, trying to humanize people and recognize that like students who come into my office are not just students. They have personal lives, they have passions, they have things that they're excited about, they have things that bother them. How am I getting to know them as whole people instead of just like, you're a student, first year student, that's all it is. Like, no, there's much more to that. So I love that piece, and I'm glad that it's valued like across campus and not just like a personal value that I have that sometimes I might be hesitant to like put out there. I feel like I can be my most authentic self here because it's an institutional value.
It's more than just words. It's
exactly
going out there and doing that.